Hello and welcome to the Discover Dayton podcast, the show that's all about the Gem City's past, present, and future. My name is Arch Grieve and I'm your host, and today my guest is Luke Tandy, the owner of Skeleton Dust Records here in downtown Dayton. Luke is personally into the noise genre of music, but he sells and enjoys many more styles of music as well, which he showcases at his downtown record store. Join me as I talk with him to find out about a rare cassette that they sell, who their next in-person event is going to spotlight, and much more on today's episode of Discover Dayton. So stay tuned for all that in just a moment. Well, hello, welcome to the show, and thanks for coming on to talk with me today.
Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I definitely want to get to Skeleton Dust Records in a moment, but before that, maybe you could introduce yourself a little bit and maybe also talk about why you decided to start a record store in the middle of downtown Dayton.
Sure. My name is Luke Tandy. I'm from Indiana originally, but moved to Dayton in 2007. And I've always been a big music lover. I remember in college a memory of I was in some sort of like small business class or entrepreneurial class. And one of the projects was to think of a business that you would want to open. And so my project was about a record store. So I've kind of always had an interest in, I've always loved going to record stores for most of my life. And, the seed was planted a long time ago as far as wanting to open my own store eventually. But, just never thought it was a viable thing, I guess. And when I moved to Dayton in 2007, I had different jobs. Like I graduated from college, but just sort of happenstance came to Dayton. And didn't really find anything truly fulfilling for me. Sure. And so I just hit a point about 5 years ago where I was at a job that I was just pretty miserable and just decided I need to make a change and try to do the store because I was going to regret, not doing that, trying it out at least to see if it would work. And thankfully it has. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, so moving a little closer, I guess, to talking about Skeleton Dust Records, would love to start with the location you guys are in. And I always like to ask people about the buildings that they're in because, they have a lot of history around here usually. So do you know anything about, what the building has been in the past or before it became Skeleton Dust? And could you also maybe describe what the space looks like now, and including maybe some of the local art you guys have in the store?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's at 133 East 3rd Street. Like the geographic center of downtown Dayton. And when I opened the store, or when I was planning on opening the store, I knew I wanted to be downtown somewhere. And I wasn't necessarily seeking places on East 3rd Street at the time. It's changed a lot in the last 5 years, but at the time it seemed sort of a dead zone to me, I guess. And so it wasn't really like a place I thought I was going to end up in, but when you're opening a business and you're looking for a space, you have to be prepared to have your plans altered.
Sure.
Because whatever you're looking for, if you're seeking a specific space, a lot of time it just won't work out for whatever reason. And that was the case here. And so, yeah, it's on 3rd Street in the Fire Blocks District, which is sort of an up-and-coming historical district. A lot of development has been happening in the last year, especially. There's been a year or two, there's been a lot of new businesses popping up there. And this is all coming from my landlord. So apparently it was built after the 1913 flood by Johnson & Johnson. And it's done in sort of a Gothic style, I guess. And so right before I moved in, it was a woman who had a business where she was selling like dog accessories, like leashes and toys and stuff like that. Okay. But going back further, apparently it was a women's clothing store. And then before that, it was a flower shop at one point.
Oh, wow.
And that's pretty much all we know about it.
Nice. Very cool. And what does it, look like today?
I definitely prefer what I consider an anti-record store vibe. Sure. Which means like very clean and sort of minimal, and there's nice wood floors, so it's all like natural. The original floors they're at least very old. And then I prefer to like have my walls like free of posters and stuff like that. Usually you go into record stores and it's sort of like there's stuff everywhere hanging on the wall or hanging from the ceiling, and that's fine. I get it. Like, but that's just not my style that I wanted to go for. So it's like really minimal. We have art hanging on the walls that we switch out every 2 months that are pretty much all local artists.
Very cool.
Yeah. So right now we have work from Kyle Teely hanging, and that show just opened this past Friday, actually, and it'll be hanging up through the months of June and July for anybody that wants to come see it.
Awesome. Well, so moving on, I guess, to talking about the store a little bit more. So maybe first you could start by explaining what kind of music you tend to carry. And I'm also curious where the name came from, because I like that name a lot. So
yeah, thanks. Yeah. We carry a pretty wide variety of stuff. It's changed a lot since I first opened the store. So yeah, the store has sort of a special focus on noise and experimental music, which isn't something you find in too many record stores. And I have a personal interest in it, and have been doing noise since about 2006 myself. So that was kind of the main focus of the store when I opened it, and it's branched out a lot since then. And having the store has expanded my musical horizons so much. And when I opened the store, I thought I knew something about music, and then I quickly realized I knew very little, actually, and that my interests were so narrow. And ever since then, it's just broadened so much, and I feel like I'm at a point where I can enjoy most styles of music. So we offer all kinds of stuff. Right now I'm super into jazz and disco and funk, and so we have a pretty strong selection of that now. But we have all kinds of stuff: classic rock, pop music, international music. Yeah, a little bit of everything for everyone.
No, that's very cool. And did you mention where the name came from? I forget.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to pinpoint that, but I remember when I was in college still, and this is around the time when I was just starting to get into noise music, and so I started a record label. So Skeleton Dust actually started off as a record label before it was a store.
Okay.
And that started in 2006. And it was just a way for me to release my own work and to release work from other people. Nice. And so it's, I guess, when I was trying to think of a label name, it's sort of a dark humor thing, I guess. I was thinking about just sort of the futility of your physical existence, and just how we're here and then we're gone, and then that's it, pretty much it. So it's just sort of a I don't know, a twisted sort of thing, yeah. About impermanence, I guess, is what it kind of boils down to.
Sure. No, I like that.
Yeah.
Well, for people, possibly including myself here, who aren't as familiar with the genre of noise music, could you maybe talk about that for a minute too?
Yeah, sure. I think the simplest way of putting it is that it's, abstract, often instrumental music that doesn't really follow the typical rules of traditional music with rhythm and structure and harmony. So an easy way of thinking about it would be it's sort of when you think of Jackson Pollock and those types of artists, it's sort of the sound version of abstract expressionism, I guess, would be a basic way of putting it. So it's just kind of it's about freedom and not really following any rules, and just sort of creating soundscapes, and however those end up being. So there's noise and experimental music. There's a really wide spectrum of sound that ranges from really quiet, sort of ambient stuff to really extreme, abrasive, harsh noise. So, and I sort of have an interest in harsh noise is what I enjoy. I like all kinds of noise, but that's what I do myself, and that's what I have a special interest in. So, and I always tell people, if that's not enough to really understand what it is, if you just think of a horror movie soundtrack or a sci-fi movie score, that's sort of what noise is, in a way, I guess.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anywhere people can find any of your music?
No, I'm not very good at doing the whole online presence thing for my music.
Gotcha.
I don't have a Bandcamp or anything like that, but I do have like some releases of my own work in the store. So if people ever want to stop in, I'd be happy to share that with them.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I've been shopping in your store before, and I've gotten several things, and I'm a Guided by Voices fan, and I was able to find some nice records there for my relatively new but ever expanding vinyl collection. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, what other local bands do you guys carry that people may or may not have heard about already?
Yeah, have quite a bit. And I just want to say too that any local artist or band are welcome to come in and, drop off some stuff to sell in consignment, because we definitely want to support any local artists that are wanting to get their music out there. But
Nice.
a couple bands or labels I can think of that are really interesting to me that are sort of under the radar. There's a label called Floor Jazz Records, and it's run by this guy named Fred, who's actually works at Omega Music.
Okay.
But he has a band called Smith Math and the Salesman. And he also has a bunch of other projects he's doing. But this is really interesting. It's really weird, bizarre sort of stuff, like experimental rock and electronic music. And they don't really have too many restrictions as far as the type of stuff that they put out, but it's always sort of weird and off kilter. And they're really young too. So it's exciting to me that there's this sort of youthful energy happening with that sort of thing in the city. And another label that we carry is called Orange Milk Records, and that's actually run by Seth Graham and Keith Rankin. And Keith is from Dayton originally, and he has a project called Giant Claw. And Seth is also here from Dayton, and they release, experimental electronic music would be the best way of describing it. But they really well-renowned label within that sort of scene, and they have artists from all over the world. They bring in a lot of people to Dayton too that are on Orange Milk for like live shows. They brought in a Japanese artist here once that played at the shop, or a couple of Japanese artists.
Cool.
Yeah, so they're doing really interesting, weird stuff that we really like to support.
Nice. Well, I noticed too while browsing your website that you're also on Discogs, which I wasn't familiar with. So I'm wondering if you could talk about what that is all about.
Sure. Yeah, Discogs is an awesome website. It's a referential site for music, and it's also a marketplace where you can buy and sell. So it's a site that we use every day, pretty much all day long at the store, and use it as like a guide for pricing records, and also as listing stuff for sale on there. And of course, I buy a lot of stuff myself on there too. So it's pretty crucial to our business. We probably do about, our total business is probably about 25 to 30% is online sales. And so most of that is through Discogs. So it's really important to us. And yeah, you can find our Discog store if you just go to our website, skeletondustrecords.com. There's a link on there. And we have about 3,500 items in there now, which is just a fraction of what we have in the store. But you can browse there, and you find something, you can buy it and pick it up in the store. So
very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I also noticed you're on, or where you have these curated DJ mixes through Mixcloud. So I wonder if you could talk about what people could find there.
Yeah. That's another thing that we started, just, sort of a community engagement thing where I love DJing myself, and, I like hearing other people's DJ sets and what kind of music they're into. And so, yeah, we have a Mixcloud account where we just invite people, and they basically just come to my house and record an hour to 2 hour long DJ set that's totally open format. They can play whatever type of music they want. It's just always all vinyl. So if you go on there, you'll find all kinds of DJ mixes. Some people playing like funk and jazz and disco, and some it's like, post-punk, and there Eric, who's one of the employees at Skeleton Dust, made it like a Halloween themed DJ mix around Halloween because he's a big horror movie guy and owns tons of soundtracks. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can check out on there, and it's totally free. So
That's really cool. So it's not just I was kind of envisioning it being more like making a playlist on Spotify or something, but it sounds like it's much more involved than that.
Yeah. I think it's a lot more exciting to, it's too easy to do a DJ set or whatever without records. I think I appreciate the effort it takes to play records and select your records, and there's more thought put into it than just setting up a playlist. So
yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. Well, so in addition to selling music, you also do in-house cassette reissuing, and that includes the Turner Brothers LP Act One, which from reading on your website sounds like was the only LP the band released. So I wonder if you could talk about that a bit and what makes that so rare, and then also maybe explain what Hippie Taco is all about.
Sure. Yeah. So Hippie Taco is just it's basically a bootleg label, but it's a way for me to release music that's just extremely rare or impossible to find otherwise, and that has some kind of like special meaning to me, I guess. So specifically with that Turner Brothers Act One LP, they're a band from Anderson, Indiana, and like you said, that was their only LP that they put out. And the band is largely made of brothers, and then there was a handful of other people because it was a really large band. I want to say there was like maybe 8 or 10 people in it, like funk band, funk disco, kind of psychedelic.
Nice.
And one of the first collections I bought for the store, it was a pretty large rock collection of like maybe 1,000 records or something like that, and it was in pretty rough shape overall. And I was still learning how to buy records at that point. I just wasn't sure how to do it exactly and how much to pay. And so I bought this collection, and it wasn't very much, but as I was looking through it, it just seemed sort of bleak as far as what was in there, and the condition was pretty bad. But then as I was flipping through the boxes, I saw this Turner Brothers LP, which I was already familiar with. And for whatever reason, it's a very collectible album. It sells for about $1,000 or more in the aftermarket, and it's just a rare cult record, and it's really good too. So yeah, as I was flipping through the boxes, I saw that in the box and almost fainted when I saw it because I knew what it was and the value of it. And it was just in perfect condition. It's probably one of the cleanest copies of that record in existence. And so I sold it on eBay, and then it really helped sort of kickstart the store, And so I wanted to reissue it on Hippie Taco just to share it with people. And another thing about Hippie Taco that I want to mention is that because it's a bootleg label, I take proceeds of the sales of the tape and donate them to an organization. So with this recent batch, we are donating money to this organization called Malteser Ukraine, which is like sort of a relief organization in Ukraine. So I want to give it back a little bit, since I am like technically not doing officially licensed reissues of this stuff.
Oh, no, that's great. Well, and then in addition to selling music, you also host events sometimes as well. So I'm curious, what are some of the things you've done in the past, and do you have anything coming up in the near future that people might want to attend?
Yeah. So we host art openings. Right now they happen every 2 months, and so that's something that's always happening, and they're on first Fridays. And in the past, like, we did a art opening for Bob Pollard. I'm not sure if you attended that one, but that was a few years back at the store. That was pretty exciting.
Unfortunately did not, but I'm sad I missed it.
Yeah, it was probably the most packed art opening at the store for sure. And it's pretty cool seeing people there that traveled from pretty far away to check out Bob's art in the store.
I'll bet.
And then aside from that, the art openings, we do live music events, and that's pretty much always based around noise and experimental music. And the next one we have coming up is on June 15th, and it's Black Leather Jesus, Moonbeam Terror, Straight Panic, and Violent Pleasures. And those are all noise acts, as one might guess from the titles of the projects. But that'll be good because it'll be pretty well attended, I think. Black Leather Jesus has been doing noise since, I want to say, like 1990 or something like that. So they're a pretty legendary act within the scene, and we're really excited to have them back at the store.
Yeah, very cool. Well, you also have some cool merch in addition to all of your records. So I'm curious, what all do you guys have at the moment?
Yeah, we have a couple different shirt and hoodie designs at the store. We also have like a slip mat with the Skeleton Dust logo, and a slip mat is, for those that don't know, is something you put on your turntable platter to like protect your record. And then we have tote bags, and yeah, I think that's pretty much what we have right now. And a lot of that you can find on our website as well, or you can stop in the shop.
Well, and speaking of, so if people want to visit in person or shop online or follow you on social media, how can they do all of that?
Sure. Yeah. Come see us at 133 East 3rd Street downtown. Or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And then if you want to check out our Discogs store, the easiest way of doing that is just going to our website and checking out the link there at skeletondustrecords.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And it's great, having you guys downtown and everything. And I'll definitely be back soon. So thanks for all you do.
Yeah. Thanks for your interest. I appreciate it.
All right, that was my interview with Luke Tandy, the owner of Skeleton Dust Records, and it's great talking with him. And like I said, I am a fan of the store, and I encourage you to check it out if you haven't done so yet. I will say there's something special about listening to music on vinyl for sure, so if you haven't gotten into that yet, then they'll definitely be able to help you out. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode, please leave a review and share it with a friend. Thanks so much for listening, and stay funky, Dayton.